Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, historical romances and extreme horror. It's my weekly wrap-up. So it's not been a fantastic reading week for me this week. I've had a very busy week at work. I've been helping my parents move house, and I had a busy weekend last weekend as well. So all in all, I've not got quite as much reading done as I normally do, and I felt a bit dissatisfied, I guess, as a result of that. But this morning I had some free time, managed to get some good reading time in, and feel like I am kind of getting my reading mojo back a bit. So that's good. So let me talk to you about what I've been reading then, and then once I've done that, I'll talk a bit about some channel stuff. But before I do either of those two things, in case you missed it in my GarbAugust video that I put up this week, or in the announcement that I put on my community tab, I'm gathering videos from viewers to go into my Happy GarbAugust video, which will go up on the 1st of August. So a video purely of like creators, so me, other creators and viewers saying Happy GarbAugust, to wish everybody Happy GarbAugust for the start of our month of reading trashy books. So there'll be a link in the description for this video to a Google Drive, Google folder where you can go and upload a video. All it needs to be is you saying Happy GarbAugust, and with your permission I will use it in the video that I put up on the 1st of August. So a bit of a way for viewers to be part of the channel as well. Right, let's move on to what I've been reading then. So 3 books finished this week. The first of those was The Unknown Ajax by Georgette, which I did a buddy read of with one of my patrons, Heidi. This was a lot of fun. So written, I think, in the 50s, and a Regency romance about a guy called Hugo who gets called down to London. So he's from Yorkshire. He gets called down to London to interact with his cousins, and in particular I guess it's his uncle, about kind of inheritance and stuff like that. Actually, no, it's not his uncle; it's his grandfather. And romance ensues with someone he meets down there. But just a really entertaining book. So full of humour, full of interesting characters. All the characters have their own little plots going on in the story, and it all comes together very satisfyingly at the end. So Georgette was a remarkably prolific and successful writer in her day, not quite so well known nowadays, I don't think, but on the basis of this I'll definitely try some more stuff by her. Just a nice change of pace for me from the nastier stuff I normally read. I had a really, really good time with it. After that I finished a British crime novel which I think came out a couple of years ago, called The Waiter by an author called Ajay Chowdhury. So this is a book partly set in London, partly set in India, about a guy who's a detective in India who has to leave the police force in India in disgrace, and moves to London and becomes a waiter in a restaurant in London. So you see through kind of flashbacks his involvement in the case that caused him to lose his job in India, but also a new case that crops up, so he gets involved in the investigation of a murder in the UK as well. And the two stories, as you might expect, there's a bit of a connection between the two. It was okay. It wasn't fantastic. I think it's a first novel, and it did feel like a first novel. Felt like it could have done with some stronger editing. But the depiction of Indian society, both in India and the kind of British Indian society and culture, was really interesting. The actual mystery was reasonably good. The central character I liked, so there was a lot to like about it. It just had some rough edges that I think could have been smoothed off, and the writing wasn't quite as good as it could have been at times. So also read, and I forgot to put it in front of me, so apologies while I just pick it up. So I read volume 8 of Berserk by Kentaro Miura from this big edition here. So I've got one more volume to go in this deluxe edition. So another really fun instalment in the Berserk saga. a bit more kind of political intrigue and stuff like that in this one, but some action as well, and I definitely had a good time. There was a fantastic fight scene between Guts and Griffith in this, which was very entertaining. And then currently reading, actually no, not currently reading, so one more thing finished this week. So this morning I read Woom by Duncan Ralston, which is a book that's been on my list of disturbing books to read for some time. I did not like it at all. I really didn't like it. It was quite readable in terms of the prose is, there's kind of nothing wrong with the prose. It's easy enough to digest, but it was just a bit stupid and really disgusting, basically. And I think the disgusting part is entirely intentional. But I personally don't think something being disgusting makes it disturbing. And a lot of people, had said to me they found this book disturbing. I didn't. I just found it unpleasant. So I will do a review of it, as I'm doing for all the books I read for the Disturbing Books project. But yeah, the headline is I didn't think that much of it. So currently reading then, I've actually got 3 things on the go now, which is really unusual for me, but for various reasons. So I guess I would say this is the main thing I'm reading. So this is Eleni by Nicholas Gage, which I'm reading for BookTube at War. So this was sent to me by one of my subscribers, DDB. DDB obviously is actually the creator of BookTube at War as well. This is one of his favourite books. This is really good so far. So it's a long book. It's over 600 pages. I'm 120 pages in, but it's fascinating. So it's a non-fiction book about this woman, Eleni, who was executed during the Greek Civil War in the 1940s. And the book is written by her son, and it's his investigation into her death, basically, and his piecing together of her life. So it's partly, kind of history, partly biography, and partly, the kind of memoir, like a true crime style memoir, I guess. So really, really interesting so far. I'm completely gripped by it. Really having a good time with it, but it is quite, it's quite heavy in terms of the subject matter. So I have felt the need for some lighter stuff to go alongside it. So I am listening to, because I like to have an audiobook on the go that I can listen to when I'm doing chores or exercising and things like that. So I'm listening to The Grey Man by Mark Greaney, the first in his Grey Man series, which is a kind of special forces style thriller, if you like. So about this character called the Grey Man, who's like a top international assassin, who basically gets double crossed by his handler, and is now on the run with like dozens of other assassins after him, basically. It's very silly, but the action sequences are fantastically well done. What I would say is it draws really heavily on stereotypes, and not in a particularly great way. So there are some British stereotypes in here which are just ludicrous, like humor, quite humorous because they're so ridiculous. There's also some stereotypes of like Arab characters and Muslim characters which are just quite offensive. So that side of it is not so great, but the tension is there and the action sequences are great. So reading that, and then also just started a book called Beheaded by Guy Smith and J.R. Park. So this is, I believe, Guy Smith's last book. So I read his first book, Werewolf by Moonlight, last month. So I thought I'd read his last book as well. I think I'm going to do a video comparing the two. So yeah, quite enjoying that so far. Actually, it's quite decent. The plot's a bit silly. It's about so 100 years ago, this guy killed someone by beheading them, and this woman who's a potter who's got an abusive husband now lives in the cottage where that murder was committed, and weird stuff is starting to happen. So it's quite silly, but I am quite enjoying it. So that's what I've been reading. And also continuing to read Charley's War by Pat Mills and Joe Colquhoun, which is a British war comic from the 80s. It's really, really good. So really bleak. So about this young guy, Charley, who's a teenager who signs up to fight during the First World War. So about his life in the trenches. And I've just read through the kind of Battle of the Somme section, which was incredibly brutal and downbeat. So for a basically a kids comic from the 80s, this feels very dark, very realistic, and it's really, really good. But it is, in a way, it's not something I'm finding that I'm flying through. Because it's quite bleak and depressing, but also because it was originally published in basically like 5-page installments. It is quite episodic in that, something has to happen in each of these 5-page sections. So it's got that quite episodic feel to it. So I'm reading it gradually, but it's really, really good. I'm very, very impressed with it. Okay, that's the books then. So on to channel stuff. So it's been because I've had like such a busy weekend last weekend, it's been a week where my kind of channel work, if you like, has been a bit hand to mouth. So normally I film pretty much all of the videos for the week as much as I can on the weekend and get them all edited and uploaded, so I don't have to worry about it during the week. But this week I've literally been filming every day in order to get a video up. So if they felt a bit rushed, because that's the reason why, so apologies for that. So anyway, I've done videos this week on, so I did a video about the kind of gender divide in reading and why women, popular fiction seems to appeal more to women than to men. I did a tier ranking of all of the books I've read over 700 pages long. I did a review of a short story, disturbing short story called A Lovely Bunch of Coconuts by a British author called Charles Birkin, which I thought was fantastic. I did the I Know What You Read Last Summer tag, and I also did my video I mentioned earlier about GarbAugust, so looking at the Garb Bingo card and giving suggestions for books you might want to read in GarbAugust, both ones I've read myself and also ones from Kindle Unlimited. So that's what's happened in the week to date. In the week ahead, I think I'm going to do my GarbAugust TBR. I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to be reading yet, but I've got a ton of options. I think I'm going to do a video, and I've done videos like this in the past, but they can be a little bit tricky to do correctly, and I don't want to get myself in hot water. So I'm going to do a video about the challenges of separating the art from the artist. And that's kind of in response to some comments I had on a video I did the other day. I'm going to do that Guy and Smith video, I think, that I mentioned, and I'm going to do a review of Woom by Duncan Ralston as well, which I've already talked about in this video. So I think that's what I'm going to do, and a couple of other things as well. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly what those are going to be yet. So, hope you found that interesting. Hope you've all had good reading weeks. Do let me know what you've been reading in the comments. And as always, thanks very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.